My name is Valentina. I am 22 years old, and I still remember the exact moment my parents told me my college fund had vanished. 18 years of savings gone in an instant, along with my dreams of medical school. What hurt more than their nervous explanations was catching my brother Spencer's eyes across the dinner table. There was something there beyond sympathy, something that made my stomach drop. Before I tell you how my life turned upside down, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and subscribe if you've ever felt betrayed by the people you trusted most. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Tampa, Florida, in a light blue two-story house with white trim and a porch swing that creaked in the humid summer air. My parents were the type of people who planned everything methodically. My father Frank worked as a structural engineer, a man of precision who expected the same level of discipline from his children. My mother Diana taught fourth grade at the local elementary school. She was warmer than my father, but shared his high expectations, especially when it came to academics. Then there was my brother Spencer, 3 years older than me. Growing up, Spencer was my protector, the one who taught me how to ride a bike, how to stand up to bullies, and how to sneak cookies from the kitchen without getting caught. He had always been creative, constantly filming family events with a small digital camera he received for his 13th birthday. By high school, that interest had evolved into a full-blown obsession with filmmaking. As for me, I found my passion in science, specifically medicine. My seventh-grade biology teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, first sparked that interest when she let me dissect an extra frog after school. There was something fascinating about understanding how bodies worked, about the intricate systems that kept us alive. By sophomore year of high school, I was volunteering at Tampa General Hospital, every weekend, shadowing doctors and confirming that medicine was my calling. From as early as I can remember, my parents talked about the importance of college. I was only 8 when they first explained to me what a college fund was. We were sitting at our kitchen table, and my mom had just announced that we would not be going to Disney World that summer like many of my friends. Instead, my dad explained, sliding a calculator across the table, "We are putting that money into your college fund. By the time you are ready for university, you will thank us." I remember being disappointed, but also feeling a sense of importance. This was something special they were doing just for me and Spencer. They showed me the numbers in their savings account, explaining how compound interest worked. Even at that young age, I understood this was their way of investing in my future. As the years passed, there were many more sacrifices. When other families in our neighborhood upgraded to newer, bigger homes, we stayed put. When my friends got new smartphones or expensive clothes, I made do with hand-me-downs or sales. Every time I felt a twinge of envy, my parents would remind me about the growing college fund. By the time I turned 16, they showed me a statement with a number that made my eyes widen. Nearly $90,000, sat waiting for my education. "By the time you graduate high school, it will be enough for a good school then," my mom had said, pride evident in her voice. "You just focus on getting the grades to match." And I did. Through all 4 years of high school, I maintained a perfect GPA. I joined the debate team and rose to become captain by junior year. I worked on a biology research project that won at the state-level science fair. I volunteered over 200 hours at the hospital. Everything I did was with an eye toward college applications and hopefully scholarships to supplement what my parents had saved. Spencer, meanwhile, had taken a different path. He had gone to the state university on a partial scholarship, but halfway through his sophomore year, he dropped out. I remember the explosive argument that followed. My father's face turned a shade of purple I had never seen before, as he shouted about wasted opportunities and money down the drain. "I am not meant to sit in classrooms learning theory," Spencer had argued back. "I need to be out there creating, making films that matter." My mother had tried to mediate, suggesting film school instead, but Spencer was adamant. He needed to start making films immediately to build his portfolio and connections in the industry. The traditional path was not for him. For a while, Spencer crashed on friends' couches, picking up odd jobs while working on short films that never seemed to go anywhere. He would come home occasionally, usually when he needed money or a home-cooked meal. Each visit became shorter, the tension between him and our parents thicker. I missed the brother who had been my best friend growing up, but I also couldn't understand throwing away a perfectly good education. The contrast between us became even more pronounced as my college acceptance letters started arriving. First came the state schools, then some private colleges, and finally the crowning achievement and acceptance to Johns Hopkins University with their prestigious pre-med program. My parents hosted a small dinner celebration, though Spencer was notably absent working on a film project in Georgia, according to the brief text message he sent. "We always knew you would make us proud," my father said that night, raising a glass of champagne in a rare show of emotion. "Your future is so bright." My mother wiped away a tear, adding, "All those years of saving are going to give you the start you deserve." I felt on top of the world that night, unaware that in just a few weeks, everything would come crashing down around me. It was a Thursday evening in April, when my life changed forever. I had just returned from track practice, my muscles pleasantly sore from the 5-mile run. My acceptance package from Johns Hopkins sat proudly on my desk, the blue folder containing my future. I had already started imagining my life there, the classes I would take, the research opportunities I might pursue. When I walked into the kitchen, I immediately sensed something was off. My mother was stirring a pot of pasta with unusual intensity, her movements stiff. My father sat at the kitchen table, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he studied some document with intense focus. "Valentina," my mother said, her voice slightly higher than usual. "Good timing. Dinner will be ready in 20 minutes. Your father and I want to have a family meeting afterward." Family meetings were rare in our house, and usually reserved for major announcements or serious issues. The last one had been when my grandmother passed away 3 years ago. "Is everything okay?" I asked, setting my backpack down. "Is someone sick?" "No, nothing like that," my father answered too quickly. "Just some financial matters we need to discuss." As I headed upstairs to shower, I noticed something else unusual. Spencer's beat-up Honda Civic was parked in our driveway. He hadn't been home in nearly 3 months, not even for our mother's birthday in February. Whatever this family meeting was about, it was significant enough to bring my brother home. Dinner that evening was painfully quiet. My mother asked perfunctory questions about school and track practice. My father barely spoke, cutting his chicken into increasingly smaller pieces without eating much. Spencer, who normally dominated any conversation with stories about his latest creative projects, kept glancing at our parents nervously. Nobody touched the chocolate cake my mother had made, which was another bad sign. Chocolate cake was reserved for celebrations or very bad news. Finally, my father cleared his throat and folded his napkin neatly beside his plate. "Let's move to the living room for our discussion." We arranged ourselves awkwardly, my parents side by side on the sofa, Spencer in the armchair, and me perched on the ottoman. No one seemed to want to start speaking. "You are scaring me," I finally said. "Just tell me what is going on." My parents exchanged a look, one of those married couples' glances that contained an entire conversation. My father nodded slightly, and my mother took a deep breath. "Valentina, sweetheart," she began, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "This is about your college fund." "What about it?" I asked, though a sense of dread was already building in my chest. "There have been some financial difficulties," my father continued, not quite meeting my eyes. "Some investments did not work out as we had anticipated." "What does that mean exactly?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. Another exchange of glances between my parents. Spencer suddenly found the carpet pattern absolutely fascinating. "The money is gone," my father finally said flatly. "The college fund we have been building for you. It is gone." The words hit me like a physical blow. Gone. Nearly 18 years of savings just disappeared. It made no sense. "Gone how?" I demanded, my voice rising. "You mean like the stock market crashed and we lost some of it? Or you had to use it for an emergency?" "It is more complicated than that," my mother said, reaching for my hand, which I pulled away. "There were some investment opportunities that seemed very promising, but they did not pan out." My mind was racing. Johns Hopkins would cost over $70,000 per year with tuition room and board books and living expenses. Even with the small scholarship they had offered, I was looking at massive debt without my college fund. When did this happen? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. And why am I just hearing about it now when I have already accepted at Hopkins? My father shifted uncomfortably. The situation has been developing for some time, but we kept hoping things would turn around. We only recently had to accept that the money would not be recovered. I looked at Spencer, who still wouldn't meet my eyes. There was something in his expression, a mixture of guilt and excitement that made no sense in this context. My suspicion began to grow. What kind of investments exactly? I asked slowly, looking directly at Spencer now. Various things. My father answered vaguely. The market has been volatile. But Spencer's expression had changed at my direct question. A flush crept up his neck and he suddenly pulled out his phone, typing rapidly as though responding to an urgent message. So what am I supposed to do now? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. My acceptance deposit to Hopkins is due next week. Classes start in August. We thought perhaps you could start at community college, my mother suggested tentatively. Then transfer after 2 years when we have had time to rebuild some savings. Or there are student loans. Student loans for a medical degree. I stood up abruptly, my hands shaking. Do you know how much debt I would have? Over $300,000 by the time I finish medical school. Is that what you want for me? Of course not, my father said, standing as well. But we have to deal with the reality of the situation. Which you created. I shot back. All these years, all your talk about sacrifice and planning for the future, and now suddenly it is just gone. And you are telling me this after I have already made my college decision. Spencer's phone buzzed loudly in the tense silence that followed. He glanced at it, and I swear I saw a smile flicker across his face before he controlled his expression. I need to take this, he mumbled, already heading toward the front door. Producer stuff very important. As he slipped outside, I caught his last words to the caller. Yes, we just told her. No, she does not know the full story yet. My suspicion hardened into something more concrete. Something was very wrong here beyond just bad investments. Spencer's behavior. My parents' vague explanations, the timing of it all, it did not add up. I am going to my room, I announced, already backing away from my parents. I need to think. That night, I lay awake for hours staring at my ceiling, the Johns Hopkins folder mocking me from my desk. Tears slid silently down my temples and into my hair as I tried to process how quickly my future had dissolved. Outside my window, I could hear Spencer's voice as he paced the driveway, still on his phone, sounding animated and excited about something. The contrast between his apparent joy and my devastation sparked the first ember of what would soon become a raging fire of suspicion. The next morning, I woke up with swollen eyes and a sense of resolve. The explanations I had received simply did not make sense, and I was determined to find the truth. My parents had always been cautious with money, borderline conservative in their investments. The idea that they had suddenly gambled away 18 years of savings on risky ventures seemed completely out of character. My first clue came unexpectedly. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop researching student loans in alternative schools when I overheard my father and Spencer talking on the back porch. I couldn't hear everything, but certain phrases stood out clearly. The project is moving faster than we anticipated, my father was saying. Are you sure this producer is legitimate? Dad, I told you, Spencer replied, his voice excited. Marcus has connections throughout the industry. Once we finish this film, doors will open. Trust me, your investment is safe. Investment. My heart started pounding. I moved closer to the window, trying to hear more without being seen. Your mother and I took a huge risk. My father continued, his voice lower now. Valentina will never forgive us if this fails. It won't fail, Spencer insisted, and she never has to know where the money really went. We can say it was a bad stock investment or something. I nearly gasped aloud. They had lied to me. Whatever happened to my college fund, it wasn't some anonymous market crash or bad luck with investments. It was something specific, something involving Spencer. Later that day, I found another piece of the puzzle. My parents had gone grocery shopping, and Spencer was out meeting someone named Marcus. I took the opportunity to search for more information. In my parents' home office, I booted up the family computer. My father rarely logged out of his email, a habit I had never been tempted to exploit until now. His inbox contained several exchanges with someone named Marcus Rodriguez, with subject lines like project funding and investment timeline. I clicked on the most recent one. Frank and Diana. The final transfer of $45,000 has been received. This completes your total investment of $87,500 into Sunburst Productions LLC. As agreed, you now own 30% of the company and will receive proportional returns on our upcoming feature film, Eternal Echo. We anticipate filming to be completed by August, with festival submissions beginning in November. Spencer's vision for this film is truly exceptional, and your belief in his talent will be rewarded. I've attached the updated contract reflecting your full investment. Best regards, Marcus Rodriguez, Executive Producer, Sunburst Productions. My hands trembled as I read the email. $87,500. Almost exactly the amount that had been in my college fund. My parents hadn't lost the money in bad investments. They had deliberately given it to Spencer for his film. The betrayal cut so deep I could barely breathe. All those years of being told to study hard, all those sacrifices we made as a family supposedly for my future education. And then they had just handed it all to Spencer because he had convinced them he could make it as a filmmaker. I continued searching, finding more emails that painted a clearer picture. Spencer had partnered with this Marcus person to form a small production company. They had a screenplay that Spencer had written something about memory and loss that had apparently impressed some minor film festival programmers. They needed funding to actually produce the film. And my parents had decided my college fund was the perfect source. There were also newer emails about equipment purchases, high-end cameras, lighting rigs, sound equipment, all things that Spencer would need for his film. In one message, Spencer proudly reported that they had secured an up-and-coming actress named Zara Jensen for the lead role, someone who had appeared in a few Netflix shows. The final confirmation came when I checked recent bank statements, which my father also kept in a folder on the computer. There was a series of transfers to Sunburst Productions LLC, the last one dated just 2 weeks ago, right around the time my Johns Hopkins acceptance arrived. I sat back in my father's office chair feeling numb with shock. My entire future had been traded away for Spencer's pipe dream of becoming a famous director. The timing couldn't have been coincidental either. They had waited to tell me until after I received my acceptances, probably hoping I would have to settle for a local state school or community college instead. Armed with this new information, I needed to confront Spencer directly. He was the one who had convinced our parents to betray me, and I wanted to hear him try to justify it to my face. I found Spencer at a small studio space he had rented on the outskirts of Tampa. The building used to be a warehouse, but had been divided into smaller work areas for artists and creative types. Spencer's name was freshly painted on a door toward the back, Sunburst Productions. When I walked in unannounced, Spencer was directing a young woman through some kind of emotional scene. Professional-looking cameras were set up on tracks. Lights were positioned strategically around the space, and several people milled about with clipboards and equipment. "Cut," Spencer called when he noticed me standing in the doorway. The smile he had been wearing faltered slightly. "Val, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the anger coursing through me. "Privately." Spencer hesitated, then nodded to the crew. "Take 20, everyone. Zara, that was great work." The actress, presumably the Zara Jensen mentioned in the emails, smiled and reached for a water bottle. She was beautiful in an ethereal way, with high cheekbones and eyes that seemed to change color in different lights. Just the type of face that would look good on movie posters. Spencer led me to a small office in the back of the studio space. It was cluttered with storyboards, camera equipment, and empty coffee cups. A large poster on this wall displayed what looked like concept art for Eternal Echo, featuring a silhouette of a woman with ghostly images floating around her. "Nice setup," I said coldly, gesturing around. "I guess my future paid for all this." Spencer's face registered shock, then guilt, then something like defensive pride. "You found out. Did you really think I wouldn't? Dad is terrible at covering his tracks, and you have been acting weird since you showed up." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Look, Val, I know how this looks. How exactly does it look, Spencer? Because from where I am standing, it looks like you convinced our parents to give you my entire college fund for your little film project. It is not a little film project. He shot back, a flash of anger crossing his face. This is my one shot at breaking into the industry with something meaningful. Do you know how rare it is to get someone like Zara to star in an independent film? Or to have interest from festival programmers before we have even finished shooting? And that justifies stealing my future? I asked incredulously. I did not steal anything, Spencer insisted. I am borrowing the money. Once the film sells, Mom and Dad will get their investment back plus profits. They will be able to rebuild your college fund even bigger than before. I laughed bitterly. Right. Because most independent films make millions of dollars. Do you even hear yourself? You are gambling with my education on the off chance that your movie doesn't flop like most first-time films do. Spencer's expression hardened. You have always had everything handed to you, Valentina. The perfect student, the perfect daughter. Do you know what it is like living in your shadow? Having parents who never believed in my dreams, the way they believed in yours. Are you serious right now? I was nearly shouting. I worked for everything I have, every grade, every award, every acceptance letter. I earned those things while you dropped out of college because it was too hard, and you would rather play with cameras. Making films is not playing, Spencer said through gritted teeth. It is art. It is storytelling that can change how people see the world. And yes, it is a risk, but sometimes you have to take risks to achieve something great. Then take risks with your own future, not mine. We glared at each other at an impasse. Spencer broke first, his shoulders slumping slightly. Look, I am sorry it happened this way. I truly am. But you need to understand that this opportunity would not have come again. Marcus has connections, real industry connections. The timing was now or never. And what about my timing medical school applications? The fact that I have already committed to Johns Hopkins? Spencer looked away. You are smart. You will figure something out. Take a gap year. Get scholarships. It is not like your life is ruined. That is easy for you to say when you are standing in a studio filled with equipment bought with my college fund. I replied, my voice quiet with anger. Tell me something, Spencer. Does it bother you at all? Do you feel any guilt when you pick up that fancy camera knowing it should have been paying for my education? Of course I feel guilty, he admitted, meeting my eyes again. But I also believe this film will be successful. And when it is, I will pay back every penny, I swear. And what am I supposed to do until then? Hopkins won't wait for your film to maybe make money someday. Spencer reached into a desk drawer and pulled out a thumb drive. Here, this is the teaser trailer we just finished. At least watch it before you completely write off what I am trying to do. I took the drive, but didn't promise anything. I need to go. I have to figure out how to salvage my future since my backup plan disappeared. As I turned to leave, Spencer called after me. Val, please don't tell Mom and Dad you know. At least not yet. Let me show them the trailer first. Let them see that their faith in me isn't misplaced. I paused at the door. You have 2 weeks. After that, we are all going to have a very honest conversation about what happened to my college fund. I left Spencer standing in his film studio surrounded by the fruits of his betrayal. When I returned home that evening, a storm of emotions was raging inside me. The hurt, the betrayal, the anger, all of it swirled together into a toxic mixture that made it hard to think clearly. But beneath it all was a cold, calculating determination. I needed to confront my parents with the truth and force them to acknowledge what they had done. I spent the next day meticulously gathering evidence. I printed out emails between my father and Marcus Rodriguez. I made copies of the bank statements showing transfers to Sunburst Productions. I even recorded parts of my conversation with Spencer on my phone, capturing his admission about using my college fund. The hardest part was composing emails to Johns Hopkins and the other universities that had accepted me. I requested deadline extensions citing unexpected family financial circumstances. It felt humiliating to ask for more time to admit that the secure future I had believed in was suddenly uncertain. As I worked, the full emotional impact of what had happened kept hitting me in waves. I would be typing an email and suddenly find tears streaming down my face. Or I would be organizing my evidence and be overwhelmed by a surge of rage so intense I had to step away from my computer. My parents noticed my withdrawal, but seemed to attribute it to disappointment over the college fund news. My mother tried to engage me in conversations about alternative plans, suggesting local schools with good pre-med programs. My father talked about helping me apply for loans and scholarships. Neither of them mentioned Spencer's film or the real destination of my college money. Their continued deception only fueled my determination to expose the truth. After 3 days of preparation, I was ready for the confrontation. I chose a Sunday evening when I knew Spencer would be coming for dinner. My parents had invited him, probably hoping his presence would somehow ease the tension in the house. I spent the afternoon cooking, insisting to my surprised mother that I wanted to make my specialty lasagna with garlic bread and Caesar salad. What I didn't tell her was that I needed an activity to keep my hands busy and my mind focused. Plus, there was something symbolic about preparing a final meal before I blew our family dynamic apart. Spencer arrived at 6 carrying a bottle of wine and wearing a smile that faltered when he saw my stony expression. My parents bustled about setting the table with our good dishes as if this were a celebration rather than the calm before a storm. We sat down to eat, making painfully awkward small talk about the weather and local news. My father asked Spencer about his project, carefully avoiding any specific mention of funding or my college money. "It is going extremely well," Spencer replied, shooting me a nervous glance. "We are on schedule to finish principal photography next month." "That is wonderful, honey," my mother said, her smile too bright. "We are so proud of you for pursuing your passion." "And what about my passion?" I asked, quietly setting down my fork. "What about my dream of becoming a doctor?" An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. My father cleared his throat. "Valentina, we have discussed this. We are going to find a way to make your education work even if it takes a different path than we originally planned." "A different path," I repeated. "You mean a path where my college fund wasn't given away to Spencer's film production?" The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face drained of color. My father froze with his wine glass halfway to his lips. Spencer closed his eyes briefly, as if bracing for impact. "What are you talking about?" my father finally asked, his voice carefully controlled. I reached into the folder I had placed beside my chair and spread the documents across the dinner table right on top of our half-eaten lasagna. "Sunburst Productions, LLC," I read from one of the emails. "Total investment $87,500, or pretty much exactly the amount that was in my college fund." I looked up at my parents. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" My mother started crying, soft, hiccuping sobs that she tried to muffle with her napkin. My father's face had gone from pale to flushed, a vein pulsing visibly at his temple. "You went through my private emails," he said accusingly. "And you stole my future," I shot back. "Which one of us committed the greater betrayal here?" Spencer tried to intervene. "Val, like I told you, this isn't permanent. The film is going to be successful and then—" "Then what?" I demanded. "Then maybe in a year or two, or never, I might get my college fund back. After I have had to defer my admission or go into massive debt or give up on medical school entirely." "We did not make this decision lightly," my father said, his voice tight. "Spencer came to us with a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." "And my once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to attend Johns Hopkins?" I asked. "Did that factor into your decision at all?" "Of course it did," my mother said tearfully. "We agonized over this, Valentina. But Spencer has been struggling for years to get his foot in the door in this industry. When this producer approached him and said he had the talent but needed funding—" "So you decided his dream was more important than mine," I concluded flatly. "Just admit it, you chose Spencer over me." "That is not fair," my father protested. "Isn't it? You had 2 children with 2 different dreams. You had saved money specifically for my education. Then you took that money and gave it to Spencer because what? Because his dream seemed more exciting, because he is the firstborn, because he is your son and not your daughter." The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. My mother looked stricken. "That is absolutely not true," she whispered. "We love you both equally." "But you don't support us equally," I pointed out. "When Spencer dropped out of college, you were furious, but you eventually accepted his choice. And now you have given him my money to pursue his filmmaking dream. Meanwhile, I have done everything right. Perfect grades, extracurriculars, volunteer work. I got into one of the best pre-med programs in the country. And my reward is being told sorry we gave your future away. Spencer stood up abruptly. This isn't getting us anywhere. Mom, Dad, just tell her the truth about why you decided to invest in my film. My parents exchanged one of their married couple looks, having a silent conversation with their eyes. Finally, my father sighed. Valentina, he began, his voice softer now. You have always been our superstar. From the time you were little, everything came easily to you. School sports, making friends, you excelled at all of it. So I am being punished for being successful? I asked incredulously. No, no, my mother interjected. What your father is trying to say is that we have always known you would find a way to succeed no matter what obstacles were put in your path. You are resilient, determined, brilliant. Spencer, on the other hand, my father continued, has struggled to find his place. He has this incredible creative talent, but the film industry is nearly impossible to break into without connections or money. When this opportunity came along, it felt like his only shot at the career he has been dreaming of. We truly believed, my mother added earnestly, that you would find a way to attend college and become a doctor with or without the fund. Scholarships, loans work, study programs. There are options for someone with your abilities. But for Spencer, this was his one chance. The window would close, and he might never get another opportunity like this. I stared at them, trying to process their explanation. So because I am capable, I deserve less support. Do you have any idea how backward that is? Spencer stepped toward me. Val, I know you are hurt and angry. You have every right to be. But please try to understand that Mom and Dad were trying to balance our needs. They believed in my film enough to take a huge risk, and I promise you it will pay off. Stop saying that, I shouted, standing up so quickly my chair tipped backward. Stop promising things you cannot guarantee. Independent films fail all the time, even good ones with talented people. You are gambling with my future, and you all seem to think that is perfectly okay because poor Spencer needed his big break. I was shaking now, tears streaming down my face despite my efforts to remain composed. The worst part is that none of you had the decency to be honest with me. You made up a story about bad investments instead of telling me the truth. You let me believe it was some unfortunate accident rather than a deliberate choice to prioritize Spencer's dreams over mine. My mother reached for me, but I stepped back. Valentina, please. We never meant to hurt you. But you did hurt me, I said, my voice breaking. And I do not know if I can forgive any of you for that. I grabbed my folder of evidence and my car keys from the counter. I am staying at Jamie's house tonight. I cannot be in this house right now. Valentina, wait, my father called, but I was already heading for the door. Spencer caught up to me in the driveway. Val, please. Give me 2 weeks. The film is nearly done, and we are already getting interest from festival programmers. I can show you it wasn't all for nothing. I turned to face him, suddenly exhausted. You know what, Spencer? Even if your film wins an Oscar, it wouldn't justify what you and our parents did. This wasn't just about money. This was about trust and fairness and respecting my dreams as much as yours. I got into my car and drove away, watching my family grow smaller in the rearview mirror, along with the future I had once believed was secure. The next few weeks were a blur of practical problems and emotional turmoil. Jamie's parents welcomed me with open arms, setting up their guest room for what they called my extended stay. I was grateful for their kindness, but ashamed of needing it. My first priority was finding a job. With my college plans in limbo, I needed income immediately. After a few days of searching, I landed a position at a local bookstore that also served coffee. The pay was modest, but the manager was willing to work around my school schedule for my final few weeks of high school. My second focus was financial aid. I spent hours researching scholarships, grants, and loan options. The stark reality was depressing even with the maximum federal loans and the partial scholarship Johns Hopkins had offered. I was still looking at a shortfall of nearly $50,000 per year. I also reached out to Dr. Keller, my mentor at Tampa General Hospital, where I had volunteered. She was shocked when I explained my situation in the vague terms of family financial reversal. She promised to look into hospital scholarship programs and put me in touch with medical school admissions counselors who might have suggestions. Through all this practical work, I was barely managing my emotions. At night, lying in Jamie's guest room, I would cycle through grief rage and a profound sense of betrayal. Sometimes I would fantasize about my parents selling their house to fund my education. Other times I imagined Spencer's film being a massive failure, validating my anger. My parents called and texted constantly. I responded minimally, usually just to confirm I was safe in attending my final high school classes. Spencer also tried to contact me, sending updates about his film that I largely ignored. It was during this tumultuous time that I met Dr. Eleanor Addison. I had attended a pre-med information session at the University of South Florida, hoping to learn about more affordable alternatives to Johns Hopkins. Dr. Addison was the keynote speaker, a cardiologist who also directed their medical school admissions. After her presentation, I waited in line to speak with her, clutching my resume and transcript like a lifeline. When my turn came, I introduced myself and briefly explained my situation. I was accepted to Johns Hopkins for their pre-med program, I told her. But due to unexpected financial circumstances, I am exploring more affordable options. Dr. Addison studied me thoughtfully, then glanced at my materials. These are impressive credentials, Valentina. Tell me more about these unexpected financial circumstances. Students often feel embarrassed about money, but I find honesty is the best approach when seeking solutions. Something about her direct, compassionate manner broke through my carefully constructed facade. Before I knew it, I was telling her everything, the words pouring out in a torrent. The college fund, Spencer's film, my parents' betrayal, all of it. When I finished feeling embarrassed by my emotional display, Dr. Addison handed me a tissue from her purse. "That is quite a situation," she said, no judgment in her voice, "and not one of your making, which makes it particularly unfair. But let me ask you this. Has this experience changed your commitment to medicine?" "No," I answered without hesitation. "If anything, it has strengthened it. Medicine is something I can control, something no one can take from me once I earn it." She nodded, a small smile forming. "That is exactly the kind of resilience we look for in medical school candidates. This field isn't just about intelligence. It is about perseverance through incredibly difficult circumstances." Dr. Addison pulled out a business card and wrote something on the back. "We have a special scholarship program for exceptional candidates who face unusual hardships. It combines financial aid with work in our research labs during undergraduate studies. It is competitive and demanding, but it could cover a significant portion of your education costs." She handed me the card. "The application deadline was last month, but I am making an exception. Email me your application by Friday, and I will personally review it." I stared at the card, hardly daring to hope. "Thank you. I don't know what to say." "Say you will not give up on your dream," Dr. Addison replied. "Financial obstacles are formidable, but they can be overcome with the right support and determination. And from what I have seen in just this brief conversation, you have plenty of determination." That night, I stayed up until dawn working on my application for Dr. Addison's program. For the first time since discovering my parents' betrayal, I felt a glimmer of hope, a possible path forward that didn't involve crushing debt or abandoning my medical school plans. The next morning, bleary-eyed but satisfied with my application, I checked my phone to find multiple missed calls and texts from Spencer. Unlike his previous messages updating me on his film, these seemed urgent. "Val, we need to talk. Something big happened. Please call me. The trailer is online and getting attention. A distributor reached out. I know you are still angry, but this affects you too. Please call." Curiosity won out over resentment. I called Spencer as I walked to my morning shift at the bookstore. "Val, thank God," he answered immediately. "Did you see the news?" "What news?" I asked warily. "Our trailer. It went viral overnight. Some industry blogger featured it, then it got picked up by Film Spotlight, and now we have over 200,000 views. A distributor from Meridian Films contacted us this morning. They want to meet." Spencer's excitement was palpable even through the phone. Despite my lingering anger, I felt a twinge of curiosity. "That is Good, I guess, I said cautiously. But what does it have to do with me? Everything, Spencer replied. If this deal goes through, it means the film will make money. Real money. Which means mom and dad's investment pays off and your college fund gets replenished. I stopped walking, digesting this information. Spencer, even if that is true, the timing doesn't work. I need money for college now, not whenever your film might become profitable. I know, he said quickly. But this changes things. It validates what we have been working toward. And maybe with a distribution deal in the works, mom and dad could get a loan against the expected returns. Or… Stop. I cut him off. I am glad your film is getting attention, but I am not going to pin my hopes on maybes and possibilities. I am working on my own solution. After a pause, Spencer asked, "Will you at least watch the trailer?" "Please, it is only 3 minutes long." I sighed. "Fine, send me the link." When I got home from my shift, I reluctantly clicked on the link Spencer had sent. The trailer for Eternal Echo began playing on my laptop screen. I had expected to hate it to find flaws and justification for my anger. Instead, I found myself captivated by the haunting imagery and emotional storytelling. The film appeared to be about a woman who could see echoes of people's past trauma and help them heal at great cost to herself. Zara Jensen's performance was raw and powerful, even in these brief clips. Most surprising was the dedication screen at the end of the trailer. For Valentina, who taught me that healing often begins with facing the hardest truths. I stared at the screen long after the trailer ended, conflicted emotions churning inside me. The film was good, genuinely good, and Spencer had dedicated it to me, though I wasn't sure if that made me feel better or worse about the whole situation. Later that evening, I received an email from Dr. Addison Valentina. "I've reviewed your application and would like to meet with you tomorrow to discuss some promising options. Your resilience in the face of these challenges is exactly what our program was designed to support." For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to feel a cautious optimism. Perhaps there was a path forward after all one that didn't depend on Spencer's film success or my parents' belated attempts to make amends. The following week brought unexpected developments that forced me to confront my family situation head-on. First came the news from Dr. Addison that I had been accepted into her special scholarship program at USF. It wouldn't cover everything that Johns Hopkins would have, but combined with federal loans and work study, it made medical school financially feasible again. "This program is designed for students exactly like you," Dr. Addison had explained during our meeting. "Talented, driven individuals who face unusual obstacles. You will work 12 hours a week in our research labs during the academic year and full-time during summers. It is demanding, but the experience will make you a stronger medical school applicant." I had accepted on the spot, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. I had a plan again, a clear path forward. I wouldn't be going to Johns Hopkins as I had dreamed, but I would still become a doctor. No one could take that away from me now. The second development was more surprising. Spencer's film trailer had indeed gone viral, garnering over 500,000 views and attention from several film industry publications. Meridian Films, a respected independent distributor, had offered to show Eternal Echo at 3 film festivals once it was completed. Spencer had been texting me daily updates, each message more excited than the last. Finally, he called with news he insisted I needed to hear in person. "There is a screening for investors and family this Saturday," he said. "The rough cut is done, and I want you to be there." I do not know Spencer. I hesitated. Things are still complicated. "Please, Val," he pressed. "Mom and Dad will be there, but so will industry people, so it won't be just a family confrontation. And after you see the film, I think it might help you understand some things." I agreed reluctantly, more out of curiosity than forgiveness. I had spent 3 weeks living at Jamie's, avoiding my family while rebuilding my future piece by piece. Perhaps it was time to face them again on neutral ground. The screening was held at a small independent theater in downtown Tampa. When I arrived wearing a simple black dress that felt like armor, I was surprised by the number of people milling about the lobby. There were at least 50 guests, some in casual clothes, others in the kind of artfully disheveled outfits that screamed film industry. Spencer spotted me immediately and rushed over looking both nervous and elated. He was wearing a sports coat over a t-shirt, his usual messy hair somewhat tamed for the occasion. "You came," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Thank you. I said I would," I replied stiffly. "I keep my promises." The pointed remark wasn't lost on him. "Val, after you see the film, we need to talk. All of us." Before I could respond, I noticed our parents approaching cautiously from across the lobby. My mother looked like she had lost weight, her face drawn with worry. My father seemed to have aged years in the few weeks since our confrontation. "Valentina," my mother said softly, reaching out but stopping short of touching me. "We have missed you so much." "How have you been?" my father asked awkwardly. "Are you still staying with Jamie's family?" "I am fine," I answered, maintaining a cool distance. "I have a job now, and I have been accepted into a special scholarship program at USF. I start in the fall." A mixture of relief and sadness crossed their faces. "That is wonderful news," my mother said. "We want to help too, however we can." Before the conversation could continue, Spencer was called away by Marcus, who needed him to introduce the film. My parents and I took seats near the middle of the theater, an uncomfortable buffer of empty seats between us. The lights dimmed, and Spencer walked to the front of the theater. He looked suddenly older, more confident as he addressed the crowd. "Thank you all for coming tonight. Eternal Echo has been my dream project for years, but it would never have happened without the belief and support of my family." His eyes found mine in the audience, especially my sister Valentina, who taught me that true strength isn't about avoiding pain, but about facing it honestly and growing through it. This film is dedicated to her. I sat frozen, unsure how to feel about this public acknowledgement. Part of me was touched, while another part wanted to scream about the hypocrisy of dedicating to me a film funded with my stolen future. The film began, and despite my conflicted emotions, I was quickly drawn into the story. Eternal Echo followed the journey of a woman named Eliza, who discovered she could see manifestations of people's emotional traumas. When she touched someone, she experienced their worst memories and pain. Initially terrified by this ability, she eventually learned to use it to help others heal, though each encounter left her carrying fragments of their pain. The story was beautifully told with visual metaphors for emotional wounds that were striking and original. Zara Jensen's performance was stunning, conveying both vulnerability and strength, as her character chose to bear others' burdens despite the personal cost. What shocked me most was recognizing elements of my own story woven throughout the narrative. Eliza's younger brother in the film had betrayed her trust in a devastating way, then spent the rest of the story trying to make amends, eventually sacrificing his own happiness for her healing. As the credits rolled and the lights came up, I sat in stunned silence, while the audience around me burst into enthusiastic applause. Spencer was immediately surrounded by well-wishers and industry people offering congratulations. My parents turned to me cautiously. "What did you think?" my mother asked. "It was good," I admitted quietly. "Really good." "He based much of it on your relationship," my father said. "He has been working on this story for years, long before everything happened." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. The film had affected me deeply, complicating my anger with unwelcome empathy. After the crowd thinned out, Spencer finally made his way back to us. His face was flushed with excitement, but his expression grew serious as he approached me. "Val, there is something I need to tell you," he said. "Meridian Films has offered us a distribution deal. Not just festivals, but a limited theatrical release and streaming rights." "That is amazing," I said, genuinely impressed despite everything. "There is more," Spencer continued. "They are paying an advance against future earnings. A significant one." He pulled an envelope from his pocket and held it out to me. "This is for you." I took the envelope hesitantly and opened it to find a check made out to me for $75,000. "What is this?" I asked, staring at the numbers in disbelief. "Your college fund," Spencer answered. "Or most of it. The rest will come when we get the second payment from Meridian." "We insisted that the first money from the film go to you," my mother added, her eyes filling with tears, "before any other expenses or payments." My father stepped forward. We were wrong, Valentina. Terribly wrong, both in taking your college fund and in not being honest with you. There is no excuse for what we did. We got caught up in Spencer's dream, my mother continued, and lost sight of our commitment to you. We betrayed your trust, and we will spend years trying to make it right if you will let us. I looked down at the check in my hands, then back at my family's anxious faces. I do not know what to say. Say you will consider coming home, my mother pleaded. Say you will let us try to earn back your trust. Spencer knelt down in front of my seat, looking me directly in the eyes. I know this doesn't fix everything. Money doesn't erase betrayal. But I want you to know that every day I worked on this film, I thought about what it cost you. I poured everything I had into making it worthy of the sacrifice you unknowingly made. I took a deep breath, sorting through my tangled emotions. I am still angry, I admitted. Not just about the money, but about the choices you all made without consulting me, the lies you told, the way you dismissed my dreams as less important. They nodded, accepting the criticism without defense. But, I continued slowly, I am also tired of being angry, and I do want to move forward somehow. What can we do? My father asked simply. First, understand that trust takes time to rebuild. It will not happen overnight. I carefully folded the check and placed it in my purse. Second, I have already committed to the program at USF. It is not Johns Hopkins, but it is a good opportunity, and I earned it on my own. We will support whatever you choose, my mother assured me. And third, I looked at each of them in turn. We need to establish new rules for our family. Complete honesty even when it is difficult. Equal respect for each person's goals and dreams. No more making major decisions that affect one person without their input. Spencer stood and offered his hand. I can agree to those terms. My parents nodded earnestly. Then I guess we can start trying to rebuild, I said cautiously. I am not ready to move back home yet, but maybe we could have dinner once a week and see how it goes. My mother wiped away tears, visibly restraining herself from rushing to hug me. We would love that, whenever you are ready. As we left the theater together, maintaining a careful emotional distance, but taking the first steps toward reconciliation, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought us here. My college fund had been taken, my trust betrayed, my future derailed, yet somehow I had found a new path forward, one that was entirely my own. As summer turned to fall, I gradually rebuilt my life and my relationship with my family. True to their word, my parents deposited the full amount from Spencer's film advance into a new account in my name only. While it didn't completely cover what had been in my original college fund, combined with Dr. Addison's scholarship program, it meant I could attend USF without taking on crushing debt. My weekly family dinners slowly evolved from tense, careful conversations to something resembling our old dynamic, though with important differences. We established new patterns of communication, with an emphasis on honesty and mutual respect that had been missing before. Spencer's film, Eternal Echo, premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival to enthusiastic reviews. Critics praised its emotional depth and visual storytelling, with several singling out Zara Jensen's performance as award-worthy. Spencer called me from Toronto, his voice giddy with excitement as he described standing ovations and meetings with major studio executives. "None of this would have happened without you, Val," he said over the crackling phone line. "Not just the funding, but the story itself. Your strength through all of this inspired everything that resonates with audiences." I was happy for him genuinely, so though it came with complicated emotions, part of me still resented that his success had come at the cost of my original plans. Another part recognized that perhaps both of us had ended up on paths that were right for us, just not the ones we had initially envisioned. I moved back home in October, just before starting my first semester at USF. My parents had transformed my bedroom into a proper study space with a new desk ergonomic chair and bookshelves filled with medical texts. It was their way of showing support for my new direction, a tangible apology for their previous betrayal. The scholarship program Dr. Addison had recommended proved to be challenging but rewarding. I worked in a cardiovascular research lab alongside doctoral candidates and established researchers gaining hands-on experience that most undergraduates never receive. Dr. Addison became a mentor, checking in regularly to ensure I was thriving both academically and emotionally. Adversity often reveals paths we would never have discovered otherwise, she told me over coffee one afternoon. The students who succeed in medicine aren't always those with the smoothest journeys, but those who learn resilience along the way. As Christmas approached, my family planned our first major holiday together since the college fund revelation. Spencer would be flying in from Los Angeles, where he had relocated after signing a development deal with a production company impressed by Eternal Echo. The night before Christmas Eve, we gathered in our living room to decorate the tree, a tradition that had always been accompanied by hot chocolate and nostalgic stories. As we hung ornaments, many of them handmade by Spencer and me as children, the conversation turned reflective. "I want to say something." My father began, setting down his mug of cocoa. "This past year has been difficult for our family, with mistakes made and trust broken. But standing here tonight, I feel immensely grateful that we found our way back to each other." My mother nodded, her eyes glistening. "When you left Valentina, I was terrified we had lost you forever, that our terrible decision had cost us our daughter. Learning to respect your boundaries, to earn back your trust bit by bit, has taught us so much about what family should truly mean." Spencer, who had been uncharacteristically quiet all evening, spoke up. "I spent most of my life feeling like I was living in Val's shadow. She was always the superstar, the one who excelled at everything, while I struggled to find my place. That jealousy led me to make the worst mistake of my life, risking my relationship with my sister for my own ambition." He looked at me directly. "But watching you rebuild your life after what we did, seeing your determination and resilience, made me realize that I had never really seen you clearly before. Your strength wasn't just in your achievements, but in your character. That is what I tried to capture in Eliza's character in the film." I felt tears welling in my eyes, unexpected and unwelcome. "I spent so long being angry," I admitted, "feeling betrayed and devalued. But through all of this, I discovered something important. My dream of becoming a doctor wasn't dependent on Johns Hopkins or a specific path. It lived in me, in my determination and passion for medicine." I reached for a childhood ornament, a small ceramic doctor figure I had painted in 5th grade. This journey taught me that sometimes the dreams that are stolen from us make room for something even stronger to grow. Not just a new dream, but a version of ourselves we never knew we could become. As we finished decorating the tree, our family felt different than it had before the betrayal, but perhaps stronger in some ways. The perfect image had been shattered, revealing flawed, complex people who had hurt each other but were committed to healing together. I knew there would still be difficult days ahead. Trust once broken never mends exactly as it was before. But standing in the warm glow of Christmas lights, surrounded by family who had failed me, but were working earnestly to make amends, I felt something I hadn't expected to find again so soon: peace. My college fund had been taken, my original path diverted, but the future spreading before me was rich with possibilities I was creating for myself. And in that realization lay a kind of freedom. I hadn't anticipated, a resilience born from navigating the storm of betrayal and finding solid ground on the other side. If you have ever had someone you trusted betray you, or had to rebuild your life after plans fell apart, I would love to hear your story in the comments. How did you find the strength to move forward? Please like, subscribe, and share this video if my journey resonated with you. Remember that sometimes our greatest growth comes from our deepest wounds. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to face whatever challenges come your way.